Honorable members, for the interest of time, allow me to call this meeting to order. Can we have introductions from our guests?
Chairperson, honorable members, my name and social development.
Chairperson and honorable members, Martin Wandera, Director.
Like Daddy has stated, we're investigating issues surrounding the NSSF. Our terms of reference are very clear. One is to examine the corporate governance structures at the NSSF fund. Two is to examine the circumstances surrounding the appointment of the fund's MD. Three, to examine the extent of stakeholder engagement in the decision-making of the fund. Four, to evaluate the status and safety of the savers' money in the fund. And lastly, to inquire into any other matters incidental thereto. Honorable Minister, you have made a statement before on the floor, and all the documents that were laid are now public documents. Some of these documents will opportunity to make a presentation. Thereafter, questions will be allowed from the honorable members or matters of.
Chair, I would like to start by handing over to you, Prince 2. But let me own one copy for you as a signature, like I stated, Chair, accept my. I want to thank you.
Kindly allow honorable members to receive the presentation first. Do all honorable members have copies?
Can I proceed?
We have a member without. But maybe you gave us 6. Because there are 7 honorable. With that,
Thank you, Chair.
actually we need more. We need about 3 more copies or 4 more copies.
Pardon?
The PS can do that as you submit.
Okay. You go back and you go with that. You do 3 copies. Thank you, Chair. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to interface with the committee and opportunity to address you as the responsible members of this select committee. Honorable Chair, I want to leave this page 1 because it is pulled from my statement in the House. Is it okay? Thank you. I will only stress others, which are also the second page is dealing with the objectives of the amendment, which is expansion of coverage and compliance. I will go to page 3 of my document. Honorable Chair, the legal mandate of the minister. I want to start by saying that Article 117 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda provides that ministers shall individually be responsible to the President for the administration of their ministries and collectively be responsible for any decision made by Cabinet. Under the NSSF Act, the following mandate is given to the Minister in charge of Labor, Social Security. And I want you to mark this. Anything I will say will revolve around my legal mandate, which is in the law. And I will not apologize for it because it is this parliament that gave me that legal mandate. Number 1, appointment of the boards is in section 3. Declaration of eligible employee is under section 2. If I can, the act is here, I don't want to read them, but I will cite, you can read later. Payment of contributions by employers to the fund, including directing the manner, directing the manner of accessing liability in a case where abnormal or unusing pay practices may have an effect on the contribution due by the employers. And this is compliance. If an employer has not remitted, has not deducted, has not done anything, the law gives me the power to direct that it be done under section 11. 4, section 19, approval of standardized criteria for members to claim their benefits. I have to approve, and I have approved. We do this in consultation with the stakeholders and sometimes do statutory instrument. Number 5, making regulations, and it stipulates under sections 13, 20A, and 25. It gives me power to make regulations for this. Without my regulation, nobody can work. 1, how members make claims for benefits or payment for benefits. Medical examination required to ascertain disability during making claims. Postponement of payment of benefits pending results of an inquiry. Honorable Chair, sometimes people come with a claim and say, oh, I was injured in work, or my employer, I am sick, but then sometimes management sends to the minister and say, we are doubting whether this one. There are times they even told me some people pretend that they are lame when they are not lame. So here, if a member comes and there is an issue where there is doubt of the legibility of claim, I can constitute an inquiry. So I can postpone payment, tell management, stop that payment, inquire, and we constitute an inquiry. The other power is benefits, time and manner of payment of benefits, where workers' compensation is also payable under Employment Act. Determination of whether a person should benefit from any benefit under this act. So I have to make that regulation, how a member benefits. How incapacitated persons can receive their benefits. So all those are referred to the minister under the law. The other one is approval of annual and supplementary budgets, which is under section 29. That particular section, which I have pulled from the law, states as follows. The board shall, within such period before the end of each financial year, as the minister shall determine, make and submit to the minister for approval estimates of its income and its capital, recurrent and other expenditure likely to be incurred by the board for the next ensuing year. The board may, from time to time, make and submit to the minister for his or her approval supplementary estimates to provide for unforeseen or urgently required expenditure on matters not provided for in the estimates. I want you to underline that. The board may from time to time make and submit to the minister for his or her approval supplementary estimates to provide for unforeseen or urgently required expenditure on matters not provided for in the estimates, or necessary additional expenditure on matters provided for in the estimates. The minister shall, and I want you to mark that 3. The minister shall, because I would later want an interpretation from the Attorney General, because it also relates to the power of Parliament to appropriate. And this one, Parliament gave me that power. It is the same power that Parliament has that I have under this law. And I have been in this Parliament for 22 years. And I have been varying, these people, Honorable Bakabulin is in my committee of gender. This financial year, they varied the Ministry of Gender's budget by 7 billion from Parliament. They gave me additional 7 billion, which did not originate from my ministry, because you have the power. And because I have that power, I can do it, and I am reading it. The minister shall, upon receipt of the annual budget or any supplementary budget, approve or disapprove the budget, or may approve it subject to such amendment. Can you underline the word amendment? Is there a parliamentary legal officer here? Subject to such amendment as he or she may deem fit. I want that interpretation from the legal department, because issues have arisen whether I have power to amend the budget of NSSF. And I am reading for you NSSF law with my power, the power that you gave me as this parliament. If you don't want me to exercise that power, please remove it away from me. 4, the board may, with the sanction of the minister, make a disbursement, notwithstanding that the disbursement is not provided for in any budget. Banange, am I doing English in this country? Am I the only one who has failed English? Or there is a problem with the media and other people? Maybe because I studied in a village school. From the amount of expenditure provided for in any budget in respect of an item, transfer a sum not exceeding 500,000 shillings to any other item contained in the budget. Those are board's power. Adjust expenditure limits to take control of circumstances not reasonably foreseeable at the time the budget was prepared. Please underline that one, because when I wrote my letter, I was asking the board to do just that. That there are things you did not provide in the budget. The law gives you the power. And I would want, Chair, that somebody puts on this table today, where Honorable Betty Amongi directed NSSF to give money to Ministry of Gender. Today I want it here. In the exercise of my legal mandate, we have been able to do the following in this short term, since the fund came to the ministry. I've issued the NSSF Midterm Access to Benefit Regulations 2022. We have developed draft NSSF Voluntary Contribution Regulations, which is with the first Parliamentary Council. We have achieved gender balance on the board. And this one was because a member, the chairperson of OWOPA, Honorable Sarah Opendi, raised it on the floor. The speaker directed Prime Minister to implement, because Honorable Sarah Opendi rose up and said there's only one woman in the board of 9 members. The Constitution says at least a third. When that happened, they sent to Honorable Kasaija, because the board was still under Kasaija. He did not have time to rectify. So when I came, that was the first thing that came to me, which the Prime Minister directed me. I consulted Attorney General, he wrote to me, and thereafter I achieved that by consulting and having members exit, 2 male members exit through their negotiation, and then I added. The obligation of NSSF is in my statement, number 5, under 2.1. I will leave that, Chair. Chair, all this one from page 5 to 7 is what is already on record of Parliament when I appeared, but we wanted to bring back the statistics. But I will emphasize only page 9, if you are okay, Chairman, that what is on record and is repeated here, I can jump it.
Honorable members, it is okay.
So I will only stress page 9 because it relates still to the issue of the 6 billion which has become a blackmailing issue to the minister who cannot be blackmailed. It's worth noting. Let me start by colleagues. Colleagues, the strategic objectives I've stated above were considered by the board. So again, I want you to underline the word considered, because I saw the member for Mbale yesterday, if they quoted you right or wrong, I don't know, that you said, when I put it on the floor of Parliament, I said the board approved and so on. I want to repeat what I said, which is in my statement on the floor. Because sometimes for us who have studied in village school, we might not know the differences in words. Were considered by the board, and the chairman wrote to me on 10th June 2022, indicating how the initiative had been budgeted for. That letter I submitted to the Parliament, but I'm going to go through after I've finished to you on the documentation separately, on the attachment. Additionally, on 25th 11/2022, a board meeting was convened at Serena Hotel and detailed corresponding activities for which an allocation of 6 billion was presented by NSSF management led by Mr. Richard Biarogaba, then managing director, and work plan was reviewed. I also want you to underline the word reviewed. Then we can consult the Oxford Dictionary. I already submitted that letter. It's worth noting that the 6 billion I approved is appropriated under NSSF operation budget. NSS operation budget for financial year 22-23, and the work plan was presented to me by the board and management. So I want us now to go now to attachment. Because for us, I'm a lawyer, I deal with the points of law, I deal with evidence. Honorable Chair, on 24th May, I got a letter from the chairman, and I want you to turn to my letter, which is the additional budget information. If I can allow members to read by themselves, or should I read? I read? They sent for me a budget which did not have details. And this is the letter I wrote, because chairman delegated the former MD, then MD, to manage the budget process with me. So he had written, and this is my reply to him. Refer to yours dated 24th May 2022 on the above subjects. Further, refer to the Parliamentary Committee on Budget report listing NSSF as a public entity that has not been submitting its budget to Parliament and advising on the way forward, which requires me to scrutinize the budget thoroughly to the standards of Parliament. Relatedly, I note that the microeconomic strategy for this term of office of government is requiring all government MDAs to ensure that each household can earn a minimum of 20 million under parish development model. And aware that government has also called for rationalization of expenditure to ensure that key priorities that can facilitate the macroeconomic strategies are achieved. And in line with that, I note the advice of Honorable Matia Kasaija, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, in a letter dated June 23rd, 2021, while approving the budget of NSSF, urging management to look at compliance, audit, sensitization, and diversifying investments, among others. And I want to pause there and take you to the letter of Kasaija, which is in your, if I can allow members to pick letter from Kasaija, because me, I'm a new minister, I'm taking precedence from Honorable Kasaija. The letter with the finance is the only letter with the Minister of Finance. Can I proceed? I will not read the beginning, members can read, but I'm going to third paragraph. The third paragraph from Kasaija's letter says, whereas customer satisfaction, that is, he was approving the budget for financial year 21-22. And that's why I quoted this letter, because he had already raised the issue I'm raising in his letter. He's saying, whereas customer satisfaction stands at 86%, I often receive complaints from NSS subscribers, retirees, regarding failure to receive their benefits because their former employers did not remit their NSSF deduction. So when I come here and I'm crying about employers not remitting, it is not my creation. It is a fact recognized by both the Minister of Finance and that of Gender and stakeholders. I'm glad all workers MPs have not contradicted me on this one. And all workers who have appeared have not contradicted me. And recall that I'm a minister for workers. I'm not a minister for elite class. I'm not a minister for people with the ties. I'm a minister for workers. This is a major compliance issue which you must deal with decisively. That is Kasaija, not Amongi. So if I did wrong, then also find this letter wrong. If I am advancing my self-interest to say I need compliance to be undertaken, I need social protection to be expanded, then consider also this letter. He continues, I urge the board to work together with management to look deeper into areas of compliance, audit, sensitization, timely payment of pensions, and diversify investments option. I now go to my letter because of why I stood up to now with the issues that I have raised. I proceed now on the letter I'm replying. I've already clarified the letter for Kasaija. It is therefore prudent, I'm now telling them, it's prudent that NSSF budget should take into consideration the following activities: sensitization and engagement of employers and workers to scale up the expansion of contribution of workers to NSSF, strengthening compliance of labor laws through monitoring the employers to ensure that workers in private and informal sectors have contracts that include contributions of NSSF, including monitoring remittance compliance. Establishing a mechanism for monitoring the welfare of workers, including an efficient online system of receiving, processing, and handling complaints in relation to non-compliance by employers on NSSF deduction. Establish a corporate social responsibility fund, targeting members of the fund to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on low-salaried workers. Why was I talking about corporate social responsibility? I had seen in the budget, they had budgeted for $1 million to construct Judiciary House. Opposite my office, Judiciary is already constructing their house. So I ask them, you people, you are not sensitive. We have come from COVID. Workers are in dire situation. They argued for midterm access. Now you want me to approve $1 million to go and construct a Judiciary House? I'm not going to do it. Put that money and go and distribute it in circles of low salary workers, because they have their circles. If you go to a tea plantation in Fort Photo, in Kamwenge, where I have been there, if you go to a sugarcane plantation, I've been there, they have their circles. So I told them, I will not approve corporate social responsibility to construct Judiciary House, which is already being constructed. Put that money for that. I go on to say, this will require some budget allocation under operating funds that will support the joint activities with the Ministry in charge of Labor.
Chair,
I'm seeking clarification.
Clarification?
That's a very important. House, my assumption is it is going on, isn't it? Or you stopped the exercise?
I was brought a budget to approve $1 million
Yes.
that they have negotiated with the judiciary to construct a specialized high court, a court which is for hearing workers' cases. Then when I contacted judiciary official, they told me, even if you construct, we cannot say this is a court for workers' issue. We are going to, you can construct for us as a corporate social responsibility, but we can only say we can prioritize. I even have the letter of the chairman justifying. When I rejected, by this letter when I rejected, the chairman still wrote back to me justifying why I should approve it. I still refused. So that one is when I said Judiciary House is already being constructed near me here. Maybe if you want, can you bring on board Industrial Court, which is a specialized court for workers' issue? Again, they said no. Pardon? Yes, I said, how can I, a minister in charge of labor, I have Industrial Court. We are renting like a small squeeze place. And now you want me to, again, the people who are constructing a big building there, with government money, you want to put NSSF money, $1 million. Please, if you want me to approve, go and negotiate with the judiciary to support Industrial Court construction. They came back to me in a letter by the chairman saying that labor industrial court is not relevant to NSSF. I have that letter, but I still refuse to approve. So, and see, in my letter I'm saying, these activities I am putting here will require some budget allocation under operation, because they had brought for me an operation fund. But I had analyzed and seen 15 billion is for staff, team building, lunch, tea, and so on. So I said, 15 billion is too much. Can you go back within this money, adjust, and put something for implementing the new law in tandem with these activities? That was my concern. If we can, with the new law, do what Kasaija had proposed in this budget, because when I asked them, the issues raised by Kasaija in the previous financial year that you undertake, then they said the new law. And I said, now that the new law is there, please, your budget has come without these activities. Go and deal with it. That's why I said, this will require some budget allocation under operating funds that will support joint activities. I didn't say activities for the Ministry of Gender. It is joint activities with the Ministry in charge of Labor, labor unions, Federation of Employers, private sector, government MDS, and members of parliament representing workers and those in the Parliamentary Committee of Gender, Labor, and Social Development. Because already earlier, when we were making laws for midterm, my experience was that these are the people who handle. In fact, it is Department of Labor. If you have any matter of labor in your, as a worker, the first point of contact is the Commissioner Labor under the law. Even when it is issues of non-remittance of your money, you don't run to NSSF. You can run to them if they solve your problem, no problem. But the legal framework is that you run to Commissioner of Labor. The first court of instance to resolve all issues of labor is labor officer at the district. So there is no way, and that is the rationale why the workers argued that you must return the fund to its rightful ministry, because the ministry has the legal framework, the structure, the human resource, the infrastructure at local government to handle workers' issue. So you are not going to implement an activity of NSSF without commissioner, without director labor, without commissioner labor. Where are you going to go? Where? Please, let us stop populist and blackmail. Let us stop it. Some of us do our work as patriots, as nationalists. On the specific budget line contained in the letter.
Order.
We appreciate the spirit, the zeal that the minister is using to explain these issues. However, on several occasions, she's addressing this committee and referring to blackmail. Is it us, the committee members, blackmailing? Is it the media? So are you in order? Is the minister in order to keep referring to blackmail, imputing that it is us or whoever is blackmailing her, and the instances under which she's being blackmailed?
So, Honorable Minister, first substantiate who is blackmailing you, who is a populist, before I can make a ruling on that order.
I have seen the press, especially social media. I want to, by the way, appreciate the established press, the Monitor, the New Vision, NTV, NBS. I want to appreciate them. But there are specific online, they call them what? Online news website that have been blackmailing me on the 6 billion.
So, Honorable Minister.
And so,
Honorable Minister,
yes.
you are not here to address the media. You are here to give the committee information. And if you think you need time with the media, we are going to request you to leave this committee, address the media, and come back here for serious business.
Chair, to add on what my sister said, she particularly mentioned my name. I don't know if she has interfered with me on the committee yet. I believe it's the first time we are meeting on the committee, so I believe it's best that she withdraws my name, because I don't think she has gotten information from me yet as concerning this investigation. And I feel offended when she brings up things like she has been in Parliament for over 20 years. We are all patriots here. And me, I don't care even if I've been here 1 year or I'll be here for 5 years, but what matters is what have I done in the 5 years. So some of these statements, I find them being offensive and perhaps trying to intimidate and threaten some of us on this committee, which we shall not tolerate.
Honorable Minister, can you, before I make a ruling on the other order, you have seen the Honorable Member is not happy that you referred to him in your earlier presentation. Can you withdraw the statement you made about the Honorable Member before I rule on the order?
On page 9, under the beginning paragraph starting with colleagues, I stated, Honorable Chair, that these strategic initiatives were considered, and I made reference to the media report I have seen indicating that the member had said I approved. So in that regard, I withdraw, because I was making reference based on circumstances where I read only in the press, but I've not yet heard from him. So for that, I withdraw.
Honorable Member, are we okay? Honorable Minister,
yes.
Are we going to proceed well? Are we going to have any problems? Are you going to address the committee or the media?
I am here to address the committee, Honorable Chair.
So can you...
So I will now stop making reference to the blackmail by the media, because I'm before the committee.
I want to ask my minister, but you see, we have been interacting with different committees, and we have got styles of questioning the different members of those various people who have been here. The way they talk is how we ask them. I don't mind how the media is capturing them. If you're going to respond according to how we are twisting them, then you will be off the topic. You just submit to us what you think is right. Yeah.
So there's a tone you are using. Probably you feel You need to bring the point out, you need to elaborate more, but it is a committee. You started with the honorable colleagues. So just so that we don't have any more problems, can we all be calm? From both sides, the members and the guests. We are here to receive information, we shall ask for clarification, and we shall take decisions. So let us be calm, let's receive. Honorable Minister, you don't need to overemphasize, and this is why you are getting challenges from the honorable members. So let us be calm, kindly be calm in your presentation, make it, the members will ask you questions for clarification and seeking for answers. Proceed.
Honorable Chair, I'm a very calm person usually, but sometimes people are over-push. So let me proceed. I don't think I need to read the whole letter. I can go to the purpose, because this one, I was on my letter dealing with the various costs which I was advising them to undertake, that I need more information. Maybe I leave that, is not relevant to this committee. Because I was telling them on staff costs, do this for me, break down expenditure on premises, on equipment and other operating costs, capital expenditure, because I wanted to understand. So let me go to the last page. The last page, then I said, the purpose of this letter, therefore, is to request you to provide the additional information required to help me appreciate the budget. 2, adjust the operation budget and accommodate part of the CAPS budget. CAPS means capital expenditure, totaling 23 billion within the 222.88 billion. Provide some budget allocation to the activities I have proposed above for further discussion. And I want also the committee to, this is a process, because the process of budget, like you know in Parliament, you ask information, they come, they present, you say whether it's satisfactory before you approve. So I ask them that these ideas that came from Kasaija, and I want you to put a budget for, within your operation budget, can you put money for it? Because these are activities of NSSF. They are not for any other person. I only advise them on the stakeholders that should undertake those activities jointly with them, one of which is Ministry of Labor. So, and then propose for a meeting to examine the CAPEX budget under real estate. So I asked for a meeting. In this letter, and indeed, Chair, they came, and unfortunately, the chairperson of the board gave the budget process and told me he's busy, and said the managing director, since they are technical and they can answer all my questions, he has handed them to me on the budget discussion and processes. So that's why even it was Richard Biarugaba who wrote to me, not the chair. Procedurally, it should have been the chair to write to me, but it is him. But in my letter, when I replied to him, I again said, please, let's have a meeting, because real estate, and I copied to the board chair, because real estate, I had an issue where they wanted me to approve 400 billion for land which had no title, no due diligence, no chief government valuers report. I rejected it, like I rejected for the one of the other one. So I now go to the reply.
Do we know that land of 400 billion?
The land is at Nachigalala. It is in my subsequent letter. So, Chair, when I wrote that letter, which was dated -- 30th May. No, there is no date, I think, in this letter, but it was received on 30th May. And if you go to my addendum, you see the reply from Biarugaba. the former MD, dated 10th June. Can you get the letter which is dated 10th June? It's replying now to me, to my letter which I've just read. And he's saying, additional budget information. We refer to your letter with reference this and received on 30th May, in which you requested for additional information to support the financial year 22-23 NSSF budget. We address your request as follows. Introduction. We welcome the scrutiny during your review of the NSSF budget, as this will strengthen the budget review process, which starts with a comprehensive strategic review session that culminates into the budget formulation. This process then receives the approval of senior management, the board, and finally the minister approval before external auditors provide assurances on behalf of the Auditor General of Uganda. The annual financial statements and the audit opinions are presented to Parliament for tabling. We now address your specific requirements as follows. And I want you to look at what I requested and what they are answering. Budget allocation for activities proposed. Based on the advice of Honorable Matia Kasaija, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, while approving the budget for financial year 21-22 NSSF budget, you requested that the fund takes into consideration 4 activities listed in your letter. We now demonstrate the budget allocation for those activities. 1. Sensitization and engagement of employers and workers to scale up the expansion of contribution of workers to NSSF. This is currently being done through the Regional Employers Forum and outreach centers in partnership with the employers. A budget of 678 million has been allotted to these activities in financial year 22-23. The fund has planned for joint activities with the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, labor unions, Federation of Uganda Employers, private sector of Uganda, and members of parliament representing workers. The fund has proposed a budget of 1.8 billion towards the activities under this strategic partnership. 2, strengthening compliance of labor laws through monitoring employers. The fund has set up a comprehensive enforcement section under the legal department to drive compliance. This is in response to the recent amendment to the NSSF Act that mandates all businesses with at least 1 employee to remit contribution to the fund. A budget of Uganda shillings 219 million has been provided for this program under strategic partnership. 3, efficient online system of receiving, processing, and handling complaints in relation to non-compliance by employers. The fund has in place an efficient whistleblowing policy and platform targeted towards ensuring that employers are availed an avenue to report incidents of employer non-compliance. This is also being enhanced in the financial year 22-23 to facilitate submission of support information or documentation and utilize artificial intelligence to analyze outstanding employees' arrears and employers' penalties. The fund recently implemented Octopus, that is Pension Administration System, which eases the registration of new employers and members, receiving and recognizing contributions and payment of benefits. This system also has a compliance model which automatically tracks performance and penalizes non-compliant employers. The costs attributed to this expenditure are recognized in the budget through amortization of the intangible assets amounting to 1.8 billion. 4, establish a corporate social responsibility. The fund strategized as follows: developing new customer-centric benefits and products for the voluntary market segment that can help address members' key pains in times of uncertainty through an agency-based model. Uganda shillings 1.2 billion has been allotted to this activity. I-Innovator program in partnership with MasterCard Foundation aimed at supporting youth, small and medium-sized enterprises to sustainably grow through entrepreneurship education, funding, and business development support. A budget of 4.1 billion has been provided for under this program. extending financial literacy program and business development services to members and entrepreneurs by establishing business academy to help members understand how to improve their investment literacy, financial resilience, offering business development services platform that brings together service providers like accounting, tax management, affordably to entrepreneurs. These drives are free to the public. They conduct a drive and are aimed at converting informal businesses into formal and increasing voluntary contributions. Over 100,000 people have so far benefited from the program with a new business cohort program launched in financial year 21-22. A budget of 400 million has been provided for under this program. Additional information requested. As requested, we now provide additional information presented in the attached appendices. So that is where they list now what I had asked about the staff, categories of the travel, because I wanted them to tell me Cabinet had directed that we must ensure that we scale down travel expenditure, foreign travel. So I had asked them, they listed the health insurance. You can read that one under Appendix A, B, C, D. It's a big document which they submitted to me. I did not give it to the committee members because it wasn't that, I thought it was not relevant. Then, you remember I asked about, proposed that take the 23 billion under CAPEX to operation, and they're answering me here that the highlighted capital expenditure relates to long-term investment in assets that support operations of the fund. Computer equipment is 3.59 billion, intangibles 17.558 billion, office equipment and furniture 2.44 billion, totaling 23.59 billion. Once these assets are purchased, they will be depreciated annually over their useful lives. Computer equipment, they give it 4 years. Intangibles, 10 years. Equipment, 8 years. It is this annual depreciation that is provided for under the operating expenditure budget and non-cash. So they are clarifying on that. The 10-year strategic plan, they clarify under that table, and they go on to talk about what the way they want to deliver under the operating budget of 220.8 billion, which is there. And the page 5, the last page, is saying the fund tracks cost of administration with key metrics for tracking efficiency and cost containment. This is computed as a percentage of operating expenditure, and they analyze the way they do percentage. Under operating expenditure, they said it is the 1.10. Then they go, they analyze from financial year 17-18 up to 2022. So the conclusion is the cause of the slight increment, because I was asking, why are you giving me with the COVID, why are you giving me higher budget than Kasaija approved? So they are explaining to me that the cause of the slight increment in budget of 0.06% in the cost of administration for financial year 22-23 against projected one of 21-22 is due to amendment of the NSSF Act, which requires a change in the business model, requiring more resources and additional need for compliance mechanism. Hyperinflation increase in operational expenditure as noted in the current rate of inflation, projected growth in the fund size by 2 trillion and its inherent increased activities, volatile movement of exchange rates. Reducing, they are now telling me that reducing the operating budget by 23 billion will significantly erode our ability to deliver on the 10.5 return to members. Already the return will significantly be impacted upon by introduction of 20% midterm access, which has depressed returns and increased cash flow from the fund. In the meeting, and I want you to handle this because that is where my letter came. The resolution of this meeting is what I now communicated in the letter flying around. In the meeting due to be held on Monday, 13th June 2022, at 11 a.m., we shall be able to expound on the capital expenditure budget for real estate. Remember, I had objected to the 400 billion. And as highlighted in your letter, do not hesitate to contact us as should you require additional information. Signed, Richard Biarogaba, Managing Director, copied to Chairman. So, I want now to go to my letter. I didn't carry it because I had already submitted, and I presume that the committee had it.
Which letter are you?
Chair, a letter now approving the budget, the actual letter approving the budget.
Is that the letter?
No, this is the one for Kasaija.
So how do we proceed if we don't have the letter?
Can I read and I can submit later?
Is it that one?
Yes, this is my file copy. My file copy, I do this to file.
We can take a photo and share it. Yes, as you present, we can share it on our platform as we wait for.
Bit of clarification.
Please proceed.
From my minister. Honorable Minister, early on we interacted with different groups and they were educating us on the process of budgeting. From management, there is a
Are you asking a question, Honorable?
Yes, I'm asking a question. But
Can you wait?
Oh, I was seeking clarification from her.
Is that clarification or a question?
No, it is leading to a
Because that question is going to lead to other questions.
Oh, okay.
Honorable Chair and honorable members, the meeting referred to in the letter of Mr. Richard Biarogaba took place, and during that meeting, which was attended by Richard Biarogaba, the deputy, and 2 officers from Finance Department of NSSF, we discussed this budget, which he had already articulated, had accommodated the issues I had raised. If you look at the budget, actually, which he had put here in his letter, it's coming to over 10 billion, which was here. So, in that meeting, we discussed thoroughly, and he said, since we are now going to incorporate these activities articulated in my letter, articulated by Honorable Kasaija, articulated in your letter and in my letter, I would now request that you, while approving the budget, you highlight it in your letter. And they gave me a figure. That figure was not 6 billion. If I recall well, I will look for the recording in my office. If I recall well, it was 5 billion. If I recall well. But I will request management to put it in writing. During that meeting, they said, no, because these activities which he had already said the budget has incorporated, which included, by the way, all the activities I had proposed and Kasaija had proposed. So in this, we extracted what was relevant. The budget which was relevant in this is what I put in my approval. I didn't get the figure from my head. So that now you go to that letter of 14, and I think you have already read it, and I will just go direct to where it is specific. which I had objected. I will only clarify what I had objected earlier. What I had objected earlier was 400 billion first under capex. So they came, explained to me, and during explanation, I was not satisfied. So that is why on page 2 in that letter, I have said I've reviewed the details of the budget proposal for financial year 22-22 and 22-23, and therefore guide as follow. Under real estate component, the implementation of strategic land purchase totaling 400 billion should be deferred at the moment pending a due diligence report. Because I asked them for a due diligence report, they didn't give me. I asked them for titles of the land, they didn't give me. I asked for CGV report, they didn't give me. They just wanted me to put 400 billion. So I said, I'm not approving until you give due diligence report. These funds will be provided as supplementary during implementation of the budget for financial year 22-23. To this end, the approved budget under this budget category would amount to, I put the figure. So I removed away because it was embedded in the capital expenditure. I had to remove it away from capital expenditure. And I put it under fixed income because that's where members get their interest from. So when you look at that approved budget, you will see operating budget is 220.88 billion, capital expenditure 1.64 billion, fixed income, fixed income 400. That is the one I removed from capital and put under fixed. And I said NB, from our discussion during the meeting, the Uganda shillings 400 billion is being reallocated from capital investment in real estate to fixed income pending the finalization of due diligence activities on the strategic land purchase.
Honorable Minister, can we have a copy of that letter you requested them to do due diligence?
I will. Let me note it down.
Can we get it during this process? You are on the board, permanent secretary. I believe you're on the board and you have access to this document.
Chair, we need to contact the board for copies of that letter. I don't know whether you are suggesting that.
For us to follow this discussion of
yes,
the 400 billion, we need that letter now.
Okay.
They can call my office, they bring all the files for NSSF, then we'll extract it. The only problem will be that it will only be extracted one. So, and now if you go to page 3 of my letter, you now go to the subject of the 6 billion. And I said, as discussed. And I'm still referring to this meeting, which we had held together with the management and discussed. And you saw the managing director had written and said, these are the budget I've allocated for your activities. So I'm now saying, as discussed, to achieve our objective of expanding collection of contributions from workers through collaboration with key stakeholders, as agreed in our meeting, provide an allocation of 6 billion from the operating budget of 220,885 to cater for the following key priorities. And I highlight, I am not going to repeat it again. You have already. And then now these ones are for other things, which also brings to the judiciary. If you see my letter, I had mentioned judiciary. I said, finally, the leadership of judiciary has notified me of the plan by the fund to construct courts for the judiciary. I take note that we have a specialized court for labor matters, the industrial court. I would like you to provide me with a clear rationale for this arrangement before any funds are spent on this project. So Mnange, sometimes you do things, but you might be crossing people's path. You do things on your own. So, Honorable Chair, I now want to go back. Just give me time, I give her what Parliament wants, if she wants to photocopy. Give what she has photocopied, then we can later photocopy. It's only one document.
Honorable members,
But the rest are in the file she has brought.
Chair, in the interest of time, if you can use the method we used for following up purposes, and then the copy will be delivered, then we'll continue with the submission.
do you have they brought the due diligence letter? We can take a photo. Are these not the same? The members who didn't have.
Chair, we are requesting let the PS take the picture for that document for now.
The due
and
diligence
share.
report?
No. The due diligence you have just requested, now she's going back to office to bring. Yes. Yes, that's the one, but it has an attachment. That was just a letter. Now, this one, it comes together. Yes, that one. Yes, that one. No, you have them, okay. No, it is for the person who was missing, the one file. So it means we only send it to one person.
You will share.
Okay. So, Honorable Chair, I was on explanation around the letter and indicating that also on the judiciary, which I had made reference, you can see that also, that one. So I want now to go, because I came on that one when I was under page 9 of my statement. So I want members to go back to page 9. I was just explaining the budget issue, which I had handled under page 9. So if we can go back to my statement, since now the attachment I've explained, and I re-emphasize that the 6 billion I approved is appropriated under NSSF operations budget for financial year 2022-23, and the work plan has been presented to me by the board and management on NSSF on 25/11/2022. I already submitted that work plan on the floor of Parliament. But again, I want to refer you to the most recent communication from the chair, which is now that letter dated 24th January with this attachment. This is the attachment of that letter. 24th January 2023, because the chairman was responding to my letter, which I deferred with the appointment of Richard Biarogaba, and there are issues that he responds in respect to the 6 billion. So I think you can read the letter of the chairman yourself, although it is written confidential, Chair, because of the magnitude of the issues raised already in the public. I could no longer keep it confidential. I only request that maybe this committee keeps it confidential. Agree that I withdraw after, Chair, you could guide.
Why would you want it to remain confidential?
I'm seeking your guidance because the chair writes it as confidential, but the information contained there is answering to some of the issues before this committee.
Can you read this letter verbatim?
Okay. It is Ref ATI stroke CONF stroke 01 stroke dash 2023, 24th January 2023. Honorable Amongi Betty Amongi, Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development, Plot 2, Simbamanyo House, PO Box 713, George Street, Kampala. Honorable Minister, deferral of appointment of Managing Director, National Social Security Fund, pending clarifications on emerging issues. Reference is made to the subject. Related meeting at State House Entebbe with His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda, the NSSF Board and yourself on 22nd December 2022. Further reference is made to my letter on the subject to the Inspector General of Government dated 27th December 2022. The board, as in its meeting held today, 24th January 2022, considered your letter of 7th December 2022. Attached here to is the board's response to the concerns you raised therein. We await the outcome of the ongoing investigation and reiterate our support and commitment to expedite conclusion of the ongoing processes to ensure the stability of the fund. We appreciate your continued support and guidance. Yours faithfully, Peter Chimboa, PhD, Chairman, Board of Directors. Enclosed detailed responses and attachment. So I will just go now to, it's a big one, so I will leave members to later look at the ones which is not relevant to my submission. I want to go to the one which I want to make reference to is on page 4. Page 4. Page 4, issues raised. Why is the MD not embracing initiative to scale up registration of more members? And this is the response from the board. Several initiatives to scale up registration were implemented and continue to be implemented. New business model. We undertook efforts to review the business operating model to take advantage of the new law. This new model was approved and is now operational, is underpinned by portfolio segmentation, partnerships, data analytics, and financial literacy. We have already witnessed significant growth of new registrations since we started operating the new model. Employer registrations have grown by over 120 from 900 registrations for the period July to December 2021 to over 2,000 registrations for the period July to December 2022. More than 50% of new registrations are employers with less than 5 employees. From January 2022, when the NSSF Act was assented by His Excellency the President, over 2,500 employers with less than 5 employees have been registered. This statistic speaks to the effort that we are undertaking to implement provisions of the amended Act, with the exception of voluntary contributions that await issuing of the regulations by the Minister. Whistleblower platform enhancement. We undertook enhancement of existing whistleblower platform. The new platform is interactive and enables members and the public to report cases of non-compliance, attach evidence, and undertake mini auto-computation of arrears. The platform has also developed interface for partners such as labor officers. Remember, this is what I had asked them to budget for. And they are now reporting just how many days ago that now the new platform is interactive and enables members of the public to report non-compliance, attach evidence, undertake mini auto-computation of arrears. The platform has also developed interface for partnership at the labor officers, labor union federations, who can now report cases of non-compliance. The next step involves undertaking training of these partners in the use of the platform. Partnership. Over the years, we have signed several partnerships with both public and private institutions to support the growth of compliance. We have already functional partnership with Uganda Revenue Authority, Uganda Registration Services Bureau, Uganda Police, Ministry of Internal Affairs, Immigration Department, National Information and Registration Authority, NIRA, Ministry of Public Service, Uganda National Roads Authority, Uganda Manufacturers Association. We also have working relations with several government institutions to ensure contracts for works and services are subjected to NSSF clearance certificate. Debt recovery unit. To boost recovery effort in contribution, we also scale up debt collection unit under legal department. In addition, we have provided interface to labor officers under the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development and union representatives on our new whistleblower platform. This will enable these stakeholders to upload cases of non-compliance onto the portal to management by NSSF compliance officers. We are in the process of organizing training for these stakeholders since the new portal has already gone live. Voluntary contribution initiative to attract both formal workers, sector workers for additional contribution and informal sector workers for voluntary enrollment. We have also worked on several initiatives under this area. We have come up with products and benefits that are intended to provide flexibility in terms of payment, access to voluntary savers.
Honorable Minister, you don't need to read the whole document. Specific areas you want us to pick interest in.
The interest I wanted you to pick is that the chair is notifying me that the partnership, what I had asked in respect to engaging our labor officers, engaging MDAs, bringing on board all the stakeholders during approval. They have already integrated, they are implementing, and everything is integrated in the budget. And so if you go to the C, you look at number 5 on C. While we did make efforts to register such workers in the past, for instance, whistleblower campaign and amnesty campaign, the new law under which we are now governed gives us a stronger mandate to cover those workers via planned partnership with the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, ministries, departments and agencies, and apex bodies such as Uganda Manufacturers Association, initiatives that are incorporated in the 2022-2023 operational plan and beyond. I want you to underline that, because this is a letter I received from the chairman on 24th, and he's telling me this initiative has already been integrated in the budget for 22-23. Now I'm back to my presentation, page 9. I was only highlighting the first point on the 6 billion and the fact that the chairman has communicated to me systematically, the former MD systematically with figures, and confirmed as of 24th that they have integrated it in the budget. The activities I have mentioned above are NSSF activities, not of the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. I have confirmed through evidence that that money is not for Ministry of Gender, that money is for partnership. And already I read to you that the MD has stated, the chairman has stated in this correspondence that they have already been undertaking partnership with all government MDAs, and I read for you those government MDAs. So if you can go and have partnership with the police, with the URA, so what is it that makes it out there that Ministry of Gender, that is actually the one with the legal mandate, would be illegal and irregular for that? But I don't want to go through that because I've provided evidence, because in the law, we deal with points of law and evidence. These activities will be undertaken by NSSF in partnership with the relevant entities, be it government or private. The Ministry of Gender will only provide oversight and support the fund in the implementation of these activities in line with the legal mandate that is responsible for social security. And I acted within my mandate provided under Section 29 of the NSSF Act, which gives me power to approve budget estimates of the income, capital, recurrent, and other expenditure of the fund. And specifically 29(3) states that the minister shall, upon receipt of the annual budget or any supplementary budget, approve or disapprove the budget or may approve it subject to such amendment as he or she may deem fit. So this one is a point of law. So whoever says you can run down, you can go to heaven, you can go to hell, it is a point of law. Mr. Chairman, I want to state that at the moment, with the regulation for voluntary, it's already, like I stated, it's already. And Honorable Chair, I already insinuated and stated the fact here of me. I'm a minister of gender. I come and defend my budget before the Committee of Gender, Labor and Social Development. Sometimes I don't have that. These are the people who bring for me budget. They initiate it. I call top management. We discuss it. We approve it. I carry it to Parliament. But because the law says Parliament appropriate, Parliament can amend, Parliament can reprioritize, many circumstances, the Budget Committee has called me, Honorable Minister, you come. There is a most important thing that we want you to defend. It is not in your budget. It is not in your ministerial policy statement, but it is important for this country. The most popular one is what we call green jobs. It is buying of tools for youth groups. Twice they have added for me money. This financial year they added for me from Budget Committee 2 billion. From Budget Committee this financial year they added 5 billion to my ministry or Women Council. I know for a fact that Parliament reprioritized the total budget of Uganda, which was brought from Cabinet where I sit. We sat and approved the budget. We brought to Parliament. Budget Committee and this Parliament varied, reprioritized up to about 1.2 billion. So, please, if I'm being found irregular here, let me put on record that Parliament be found irregular. If my power given by Parliament to amend or not amend, to reprioritize under NSS Act, I did it and it is irregular, I call on this committee to also investigate why Parliament varies national budget. I go to governance issue, page 10. Board of Directors. By the time I took over the supervision of the fund, the board had already been constituted by the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Honorable Sarah Pendi, WAPA Chair, raised concern on the floor of Parliament about gender balance on the board. The Right Honorable Speaker then directed the Right Honorable Prime Minister to ensure that the composition of the board complies with the law. Consequently, upon the directive of the Right Honorable Prime Minister, I held a meeting with the board, Attorney General, representative of National Organization of Trade Unions, and Central Organization of Free Trade Unions, and my technical team. During the meeting, the chairman of the board and representatives of NOTO and the Federation of Uganda Employers requested that they be given time to reconstitute their membership on the board. Subsequently, the member of NOTO and another from Federation of Uganda Employers voluntarily resigned. They then submitted nomination for 2 female members whom I appointed. So that is my submission on governance. On management, when I took over as responsible minister, the management of the fund was aided by Mr. Richard Biarugaba as managing director and Mr. Patrick Ayota as deputy managing director, respectively. In addition, the NSSF, to the NSSF Act, their tenure was governed by the Human Resource Manual which provides for mandatory retirement upon attainment of 60 years. When I realized that both had attained 60 years, I advised them to retire in order for them to be considered for reappointment on contract. Mr. Ayota submitted his retirement letter on 18th July 2022, and Mr. Byarugaba submitted his on 22nd July 2022. I invite you to get in my attachment the retirement letter for both, and that one I want to read it make it on record for reading. Let it be with my voice. I am reading 22nd July 2022. This is from Richard Byarugaba. To Honorable Betty Amongi, Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development, Kampala, Uganda. Honorable Minister, retirement as Managing Director, National Social Security Fund. I refer to your letter reference number ADM 84/154/02 dated 22nd July 2021 on the above subject matter. I want you to just, instead of 21, to change it to 22. There was a mistake in the date, but it is supposed to be 22nd July 2022. I write to retire having attained the age of 60 years in accordance with the NSSF Human Resource Policy Manual 23.3.1 on normal retirement. I now seek reappointment in line with the fund's Human Resource Policy and Procedures Manual, which provides for retention of mission-critical talent who have reached the fund's retirement age. Enclosed is a copy of the letter from the chairman of the NSSF Board of Directors recommending my reappointment. Your positive consideration will be appreciated. Yours faithful, Richard Byarugaba, Managing Director. Copy, Chairman, NSSF Board. So when he retired, at that time, the board had approved that I give both of them 3 years for them to transit the fund, because the human resource had said they had reached retirement. I wanted to read that because that's where controversy is. So, Honorable Chair, I continue with my statement. I then reappointed Mr. Ayota, Deputy Managing Director. So upon his retirement, for him, he retired earlier. Then I appointed him on 20th July. Then the one of Richard Byarugaba retirement came 22nd July. But before I could reappoint Mr. Richard Byarugaba, I received a legal opinion from the Solicitor General that notwithstanding his attainment of 60 years provided in the Human Resource Manual, which is quoted in his letter, the contract of 5 years was binding, and therefore he had to stay in office up to 1st December 2022. That interpretation is in your folder. It was telling me that yes, it is true, they should retire at 60 years. That is Solicitor General. And in that letter, he says he sent it in consultation with Attorney General. You can read it yourself.
Chair, when was that? When did you seek the opinion from the Solicitor General?
The letter is with you.
I want you to put it on record.
The 22nd July, that very 22nd, is when the letter, when he retired. He retired on 22nd. I did not ask for the opinion, but he went and asked for it, and that very 22nd is when we received that legal opinion. And you have the legal opinion. So, the legal opinion.
I don't seem to have that document. Does any member have that document? This is from the Attorney General.
Can I make him again take a photo and share?
That is from the Solicitor General?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, Honorable Chair, Richard Biarogaba retired on 22nd, and also on 22nd, I got that opinion which was saying, yes, he is entitled to retire at 60 years. But because his contract had not yet ended, and his contract was ending on 1st December, under the law, he ought to first complete his contract. And then I now go back and implement his retirement by giving him the 2 years, which is mandatory under Human Resource Manual. So that is why I did not appoint him.
Through you, Chair, do you seek a legal opinion on the deputy as well? Perhaps you could share that document as well, because I believe he had passed the age as well.
No, I told you I did not seek any legal opinion. Why? Because I was still consulting. They had both retired. Now the deputy, after retiring, I appointed him in consultation with the appointing authority, because I didn't want to leave a gap. And he retired earlier. So when he retired on 18, I appointed him. So I was waiting.
What I'm seeking to be guided on the opinion that you...
No, I didn't, because there was no controversy. You see, in governance and management, if there is consensus, you move. I had verbally consulted with the Attorney General, verbally with the Deputy Attorney General, with Solicitor General, with Public Service, and they all said, no, once they clock 60 years, it's automatic. So all of us had that in mind. So I even met with Honorable Kasaija and notified him of the development. And so after consultation, I gave him the 1 year, pending review of the board's recommendation to me. So there was no controversy. The deputy MD did not run to Solicitor General. For him, he took his as normal.
Can we proceed? We are going to ask the questions. We are running out of time.
Now, Chair, it's you to guide me, because if members ask...
It is okay, you
yeah.
proceed.
Therefore, Chair, as I was waiting to reappoint Richard Biarogaba on contract, as per the above advice, I received another verbal communication from Attorney General telling me that that Solicitor General's interpretation was in error, and that the new law did not provide for age. There is no reference to retirement age, hence the appointment of the MD and Deputy MD is regulated by the NSSF Act, which provides for 5-year term, and that they are both eligible to 5-year term. So the Attorney General overturned the other one. So after overturning, even the contract I had given to the Deputy MD now became what? Invalid. So that is how now I had to go on Attorney General's advice. So while all this were happening, we were also receiving various petitions against the reappointment of Richard Biarogaba as a MD, and we had to take it into consideration. This prompted me to defer the reappointment until these petitions are disposed of. Consequently, and after consultation with, among others, the President and the Right Honorable Prime Minister, matters for investigation were referred to both the Inspectorate of Government and Auditor General. A timeline of 60 days was given for these institutions to provide reports to inform my decision on whether to renew or not to renew Mr. Richard Biarogaba's contract. Accordingly, I wrote to the board to assign Mr. Yotta, and the board sat and assign him as caretaker for the fund to function normally. So, Honorable Chair, I now want to conclude and say, Chair and members, I want to thank you for this invitation, and I want to clarify that my detailed submission on the floor of Parliament should be considered as part of my submission on the floor of Parliament, in addition to what I have submitted now. That is important to note that documentation in this matter has already been shared with the Parliament, and the petitions that I received and other relevant documents submitted to both the IGG and Auditor General who are leading investigation related to abuse of office, corrupt tendency, forensic, value for money, engineering, audits, all those documentation, I have already submitted them to both the IGG and the Auditor General. And to note that the Auditor General, Right Honorable Prime Minister, had written to me after I had briefed her in details about all the petitions and allegations. When she wrote to me asking me to reappoint him, in that same letter, she also said she's referring the investigation to Auditor General. Then the chairman of board referred board SAT and referred investigation to IGG. My role was only to submit the petitions I had based on matters referred to Auditor General. I submitted those, and those that were submitted to IGG, I also submitted those petitions. So all those petitions are already with the two institutions. Chairperson and members of this committee, I beg to submit, and thank you again for the opportunity. Thank you very much.
But the document you laid on table, on the floor, has allegations of financial impropriety, allegations of corruption, allegations of collusion, amongst many. So we want you to substantiate on all these allegations, not merely telling us that this has been sent to the IGG, because one of our terms of reference is to establish whether the saver's money is actually safe. So before we take questions, we are going to break off for lunch for 30 minutes. Immediately we come back, the Honorable Minister will substantiate on all these allegations, because on all these allegations, the document that was laid on the floor. So we're breaking off at exactly 1:21. We should be back by 2. Suspended, meeting suspended, sorry.
So you want the bag to be made? Yes. So that you are sure? I will send in the afternoon the Minister of State for Labor.
Which is by law, for about 6 billion from NSSF to the regulation. We are sure you must have noticed some negative and positive issues at the fund. I am sure you're not going to tell us only the positives, since you are the regulator. So we're interested in both sides of the coin. As a regulator, what did you find challenging? What did you find that is okay? I have seen is it the MD? Chief Executive. I have seen I watched on television his interview, and he assured Ugandans that this fund is absolutely safe, and the savers' money is absolutely safe. So without wasting much of your time, we have a very long day. Kindly give us the information. After that, honorable members will be free to ask questions or clarification where necessary.
Doing that, we are expected, and we do protect the interest of members and their beneficiaries. In executing our mandate to protect and prudent investments in the retirement benefit sector, I'm not going to the details of what we have achieved. I'll straight away going into the areas that were the terms of reference for our submission. The one which is examining the corporate governance structure at the NSSF. As far as we know, at the helm of the NSSF is a board of directors, trustees licensed by us, UBRA, and appointed by the minister. We subject them to a fit and proprietary assessment criteria to qualify their service to the board. In particular, look at the integrity, competence, and financial soundness in order for them to qualify. There's quite a lengthy process to that, and a number of documentation that we demand from them, and it's upon that we give clearance to the Honorable Minister to subsequently go ahead and issue the appointment instruments. Details of that are embedded in Part 2 of the second schedule to the UBRA Act, that is under the number 1 of 2018. Honorable Chairman and honorable members, the fund also has service providers, again licensed by us to date. There are 2 fund managers, Sun and Genafric Asset Managers. There are also 3 custodians, that is Stan Chartered Bank, Stanbic Bank, and how to operate to provide that service. And all these provide the safety measures established under the act that government put in place. I can also present that all the directors and trustees of the fund today still have running license regarding the misconduct or misbehavior of one of the board members, and we are still investigating the matter, and we shall be able to submit a detailed report and our recommendation to the Honorable Minister for Gender, Labour and Social Development, who is responsible for appointing the Board of Trustees. There is, however, a need to provide for specific functions of the board. This is an observation we noted earlier, and Section 4 of the NSSF Act only provides for general functions, and we noticed that this is something that needs to be addressed, and it creates friction and a few confusions here and there. And during the process for amending the NSSF Act, UBRA sponsored amendments to this particular clause. Unfortunately, our submissions were not adopted. The authority, following previous on-site inspections, directed the Board of Trustees to nonetheless review their board charter. That's the document they use to execute their function, and to provide for detailed functions of the board and the separation of roles across. Number 2, which is examining the circumstances around the appointment of the fund's MD. As far as we know, Honorable Chairman and members, the term of Mr. Richard Biaruga, that's the former MD, and Mr. Patrick Ayota expired on 30th November 2022. Prior to the expiry, the board had written to the Honorable Minister recommending their reappointment. However, there were delays until 2nd December 2022, when we as UBRA received a notice from the NSSF chairman of the reappointment of Patrick as the deputy MD, and also his appointment as the acting MD, pending finalization of the consultations. That's what we have on our record. We, however, later learned that the Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development had deferred the appointment of the MD, address, among others, the governance challenges. Some of them are mentioned above, the dual supervision and multiple accountability centers. And of course, the reserve account. The reserve account is one of those areas that have been provided in the NSSF Act that has a concentration of flows into it. Some of them can easily be abused. Number 2, the minister should issue guidelines in form of regulations to clearly prescribe the criteria that should be followed when nominating individuals to be appointed on the NSSF board. Again, we had made an attempt to this, but also to present chairman and directors, much as we were able to implement our function to ensure that the trustees are appointed and subsequently subjected to the fit and propriety test. We were challenged in court. There's a court case which we've appealed, which was against us, and that was at the appointment of some of the board members in the past. The current ones all have licenses by us. And finally, we think there's a need to align the NSSF Act to comply with some of the areas that they currently hide under. They have to be complied with the NSSF Act. Chairman, Honorable Chairman, and Honorable Members, that is our submission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it is very shocking that government built NSSF towers and we do not even have a title for the property where we built multi-billion structure.
It is workers' house, just to clarify. The workers' house, not the NSSF towers. The one that is housing there on Pilkington Road.
Workers' house?
Yes. Thank you, Chairman.
It has no title?
Yes, the best of the information we have, the title is not there, and they are processing a special title.
Okay. It is also shocking that Temangolo, which we paid for very large sums of money, there are still titles that have not been transferred to the fund. But I think we are going to get more details as soon as we get that report. So we are going to ask questions. You, on the last page 6, you say the Ministry of Gender oversees the policy function and governance of the fund. As UBRA, have you ever noticed any irregular directives where the minister of the same Ministry of Gender is initiating investments? 2, as a regulator, are you privy to information regarding the purchase of a plot on Yusuf Lule Road and the circumstances surrounding this plot? Then I would like UBRA to comment on Section 3 of the NSSF Amendment Act 2022, specifically the composition of the board. Because we have members on your board who are members on the board of NSSF. Is there no conflict of interest? Can you give us more highlights on the dual supervision? Have you noticed any challenges already as a regulator? Does UBRA advise the Ministries of Gender and Finance on pension issues? And we have 2 more members ask.
It will be just clarification on the presentation of the chairman, CEO, UBRA. On page 4, where you are saying notwithstanding, you said at the time of our last inspection. My question is, how often do you inspect NSSF? Second question, part B, where the fund has hired 3 custodians who are limited to certain areas. Then you come to page 5, you say the custodian keep custody of all schemes, funds, title deeds, certificates, and what have you, including title deeds of Temangalo, which are not belonging to the names of NSSF. You as a supervisor, what was your role? Because Temangalo is not an issue of yesterday. It has been there for some time. When you discovered these abnormalities, what advice or what steps did you take? Thank you.
One more person?
Yeah, I'm sorry. And I wanted to ask these UBRA people. In 5B, You are informing us that the IGG investigations were initiated, of which we are aware. According to you, are we doing double work? Is what we are doing contrary to what IGG is doing?
Honorable Amos.
Chair, mine is going to be only one. The ED, they seem to share something. We are all Rotarians. You're most welcome. And you know the four-way test. For the things we say, think, or do, first, is it the truth? So we expect nothing but the truth. Do you supervise the procurements of the fund? And I will address myself to only one. Has the fund procured, in your knowledge, a pension administration system? At what cost and how is it functioning? Thank you.
Kindly respond.
Thank you, Chairman and honorable members. Through you, I will request my colleagues to support me. Have we received any irregular directives from the Minister of Gender, Labour and Social? Have we seen any irregular directives from the Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development? Nothing has come to our attention, at least, save from the sentiments that we saw in the letter that was shared to us, which was written by the Honorable Minister to the Chairman of the Fund, and where we noticed investment issues in that report. And to us, we think that's probably where one of the challenges are, because the things that were mainly referred in that letter, some of them referred to matters of investment, and the new amendments of the NSSF Act had actually given that role to the Minister of Finance. So we are not sure whether it was a harmonized position, but we think that it is one of those gray areas. Who is supposed to take charge of what? But regarding Polot, that's the use of Lule Road, request Daisy. This was one of the properties of NSSF, but we have details in our, again, supervision report, but we can make mention on it.
Thank you, CEO. Regarding Yusuf Lule Road property, the fund held 3.2 acres of property at Yusuf Lule, and 3.2 acres. And in 2019-2020 financial year, the government discussed with NSSF to dispose of part of that property to house the headquarters of Afri-Exim Bank. There were clear discussions and valuations regarding the portion of the property that was to be bought by government for purposes of housing the Afri-Exim Bank. And the transaction was concluded, and 2.2 acres were sold off for that purpose, and NSSF retained 1 acre, 2.2 acres. And NSSF retained 1 acre. And the record is there regarding that transaction. Yes, Mr. Chair.
So you didn't see any irregularities?
The irregularity in that transaction is regards to the fact that the disposal or handling of that disposal came from a government directive. However, the other parts of the transaction were done as per valuations from the government valuer, as well as NSSF's independent valuer, and the mutation was done as per the land registry directions.
Yesterday we had an issue with the value that was given to that property. And even an audit, an investigation was forced to be done. And surprisingly, the regulator has no information in this regard. Just for the record, do you or you don't? Do you have any information regarding the valuation of this property?
The valuation that we have on our record is the valuation that was presented by the government valuer at the time when the Ministry of Finance entered into the transaction for mutation and disposal of part of that property.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. The other question was on Section 3 of the amendment, or that's the NSSF Act, which talks of the composition of the board, which has both representative of Minister of Finance and Minister of Gender. This was, it was there before even the amendment. Our understanding is that we are just trying to regularize what was the practice then, because even in the past they were represented. So, but I think the other issue is, of course, even on our side, we have representation of both ministries, that's the PSCs, and for us, we are looking at it more from a governance perspective. Are they the same people? No, but they are different people. The only common factor is that they're coming from the same institutions. We are tempted to think that it was in the wisdom of government, in this House actually, which made the law, and we cannot go against implementing a law that has been given to us. Does UBRA advise Minister of Finance on pension issues? Yes, there are quite a number of policy initiatives. One of them was those proposals we made to the amendment of the NSSF Act, but there are also some policy issues. Apparently, there are those regarding preservation of funds, regarding taxation of members' funds, and also those that are relating to the going concern, that's the long-term growth of the sector. How do we strategize and think widely in terms of consolidation to ensure the broader protection of members' funds, but at the same time meeting, dealing with the old age poverty issue that we need to address. Questions from what?
Chair, your question was looking at the conflict of interest. And according to the presenter, it was there even before the amendment, which is right. Committing a crime for 10 years does not mean that when it continues, it becomes good. And my question is, I'm looking at good corporate governance, and you have said lately that you are looking at the governance participation or perspective. Now, let me give you an example of Charop. Is he called Charop? He's a big person in finance. Or Chairap. He sits on the board of NSSF, which you supervise. And Chairap is your boss in finance. How do you see the two roles? That's what the chairperson was trying to see. Is it normal? Much as we made a mistake as legislators, according to you, who is good at corporate governance? Is it proper? I think that's what he was asking. He was not blaming you, but according to you, if you are going to be a teacher, what will you advise? And I have seen in your recommendations some areas of this social security fund, much as we have just repeated it, to be amended. Would you recommend that also?
My understanding of the chairperson's question on dual supervision of the fund is in the aspect of post-legislative scrutiny. After making the law, we could have made mistakes, but you, the people who are implementing the law, you are better placed to tell us the challenges. And on page 5 of your presentation, among the other matters incidental there too, you have indicated in D, challenge of dual supervision of the fund. So feel free to tell us if there is a problem, and then later on, probably in the subsequent amendments, we can correct it.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, honorable members, for the clarification. I just want to state that from the governance perspective, you can confirm a good governance when you've tested it. Now, we've been in this space where the NSSF is represented by the two ministries and the board, and also UBRA is represented by the two PSs on the board. We've not at least faced that contradiction of governance in terms of, especially on our oversight role. However, like I've mentioned earlier, because of now the dual supervision bit, which I think I've mentioned that whereas the clear functionalities that have been specified in the NSSF Act, who does what in terms of means of finance and means of gender, we've already seen contradictions. But like any other person, when he feels that he's disadvantaged on one side, they will try to run to the other side. A case in point, if you are looking at the investment function of the fund to date, the details that are being alluded to of investments, they should be held under the Ministry of Finance. Issues of board governance, who is supposed to appoint the board, etc., etc., should be the Minister of Gender, as far as the Act is. However, you cannot separate the two. The clear example we have, the budget of the fund, as an example, is approved by the Minister of Gender. But this is a financial matter. Women don't even have access to it as a regulator to provide an input into it. We provided input at the time of amending the NSSF Act, particularly on the operations of the reserves, because it has to clearly be stipulated how the reserves are supposed to be managed. We also provided input in terms of computation of interest of members. Now, it has both a finance function, it has both a social security issue. So at the end of the day, that conflict at the top is likely to happen. Our recommendation, which we still maintain, I think it is wise to have one house, one head to take charge of this, and other things can follow in line.
Which one would you recommend to take it?
Now, we need now to begin from unpacking what is NSSF. Is it a pension fund? Is it a provident fund? By its structure and operations, it's defined by members contributing into the fund. Funds are invested in the interest of members, and the member is paid a lump sum amount at the exit. So it operates like a savings vehicle of some sort, purely a provident fund. So, does it meet the other social security principles? To some extent, yes and no. It only meets them on the definition of other benefits in the Act, but which can only materialize if they've happened anyway. But in reality, it's a provident fund. And I think we had proposed in our amendment that if it's supposed to be a social security fund, let it be seen to address that old age poverty challenge in the market. Paying people lump sum payments does not resolve the old age poverty issue. Many people go into retirement, and they run into poverty in the first 2-3 years of retirement because funds have been paid and spent. So in our opinion, your question, to directly answer your question, where is it? I don't think, for one, what matters is the principle and the head at the top. Define it from the onset, and then where it will be easily identified. The other questions, allow me through you, Chairman. There are questions from Honorable Bakavlindi. How often do we inspect NSSF? Like I said in my submission, we inspect NSSF every year. We do on-site inspection, we even do off-site surveillance. From the information we get, from all the information they submit to us, we are able to detect and to be able to take action. The only limitation is that information submission is at a great lag. Today, we get returns on a quarterly basis, that is 3 months lag. So in that operation, you may not be able to detect things as they happen, but fortunately, we also get financial statements annually. But now we are working on enhancing that capability through a risk-based supervision framework. We think that we can be able to identify risks in real time if we can amend the provisions of the regulations for submission of reports frequently. We can begin with 1 month, and then we can go on a weekly basis. It's a journey we want to walk into.
We are interested in get either political or not political resistance when you request for some information from NSSF.
We don't, it's not political resistance, but we get resistance for sure. Like I've highlighted earlier, I think it's one of the things we say that we needed to align the NSSF Act with the UBRA Act. The case in point are the circumstances when we directed that all funds of the schemes should be managed by a fund manager. It's provided for in the Act. But of course, the argument then was that the concentration of that money is invested in government securities, 76%. Do you need a fund manager to do that? To some extent, we agreed with them. We understand the principles. But again, during the amendments, we proposed that can that be qualified? That if you're doing in-house fund management with the current practice, can it be limited to only government securities? Again, it was ignored. We are not listened to when we presented that. But we think that where you qualify for in-house fund management, it has to be limited to a particular asset class. But those are some of the areas where we've been. The other area which I've mentioned in our report, the custodian, demanded that all funds and financial transactions of the scheme must be operated under a custodian. Now, a custodian, whereas it's a bank, banks that are licensed by us to offer custodial business must have a clear functionality that is separate from the normal banking business that is purely custodial. And it's under that window that we can be able to execute our supervisory function. We can demand for information. We can also dictate on what should be done. But we have a limitation. Because
just on that issue of custodian.
Yes, sir.
In your presentation on page 4, you said the fund has hired 3 custodians. And these custodians are keeping our assets outside Uganda.
They keep title deeds and instruments of assets outside Uganda.
Outside Uganda?
Yes.
Now, are the 3 custodians also licensed by you?
Yes, they are.
So you would have no challenge?
For that purpose, we would not have a challenge of getting that information. However, if it comes for when you have a custodial business, when you have a custodians to support your work, all your transactions must operate through it's like a glass. So in principle, the regulator can be able to know what has been transacted, what financial transactions have been settled, and what flows have been executed. So in principle, we have that limitation because they operate as a bank account outside the custodial business. And if you operate as a bank account, then the principles of confidentiality come in. So we only have to exercise a legal window, either through going to court to demand for that, or that is one of the limitations we are having. But nonetheless, the argument was that if you are keeping titles of the fund and all the other instruments, say government securities and also equities titles no longer require paper, but rather be accessed through a platform. Why would they pay highly for a custodial service? And of course, the argument to us was that that's now a pricing matter which has to be negotiated between the custodian, but it should not replace what you are required to do. But those are some of the things that we've identified. And as you've requested, that's what I would submit.
My title deeds of Temangalo is kept quietly, nicely outside the country.
No, that's not what I said.
No, I'm asking.
Okay.
Is it safe? You know the SAG of Temangalo. And I wanted to propose to expose it, to sell it. Do I have the right to sell Temangalo as NSSF?
Yes, Temangalo, like we've submitted, has a number of titles. But what we submitted, my college, that there are 5 titles that had not yet been transferred in the names of the fund. The other titles are fully incorporated in the name of
Maybe what you should do is elaborate more, because in B you say it limits, the fact that our titles are kept outside the country, it limits your oversight function. But you are the same UBRA that licenses the banks where these titles are kept, which means you also have, I'm sure, provisions in licensing where you can withdraw those licenses. So how come you are still having challenges? Are those banks refusing to give you these titles? So what is the challenge? Explain more. How come it's limiting your oversight function? Is there any other member who has clarification in this matter?
Yes, Chair. I don't know, I want us to have clarity over this issue. If I have understood the CEO, he said that the concerns that custodians are only responsible for safekeeping of assets held outside, not keeping the assets outside Uganda, but assets that are held outside. So meaning that the assets which are held within are not his concern. Is that true?
No. Can I clarify, Chairman? First and foremost, all assets of any scheme are supposed to be kept, not assets, all titles to an asset of any scheme are supposed to be held in custody by a custodian licensed by UBRA. Custodians are domiciled in Uganda, so all the information and all that document is in Uganda. I mentioned for that particular statement, our concern is that whereas the fund has 3 custodians, their role has been limited to only holding title deeds or title to assets of those assets that are invested outside Uganda. A case in point number 1, I'm talking of equities in the Kenyan market. I'm talking of securities titles in the Kenyan Securities Exchange and Kenyan market rather, Rwandan market and the Tanzanian market. It's not that the assets are kept outside Uganda, the titles are kept outside.
Clarification,
but,
Chair.
Clarification, Honorable Nanto.
So who holds the deeds of titles that are investments that are in Uganda? Who's the custodian to those titles in Uganda?
Yes, and that's where our concern is. They're being held by NSSF in-house. But let me ask the head of supervision to provide more insights on that.
Thank you.
Give us more insights. For those titles of Temangalo that are not yet with you or in the names of the fund, give us details of the size.
I think they are bringing the report. Has it come? They are bringing it. But you can give the members, if you know offhand, you can give the members.
And Chair, addition on that, perhaps you could tell us the risk they are exposed to, because when you say the titles are not there, perhaps someone could come out and claim ownership. So you can give us the risk as well, and including the one you've talked of, the workers' house as well, the risk we are exposed to.
Thank you, Chair and members. Let me start from the investments of NSSF. The fund holds investments in government securities, quoted equities, unquoted equities, and majorly real estate. Of course, there are some fixed deposits here and there in some of the banks. What happens is that when we, the contributors, send money in, the fund has MOUs with commercial banks to support in collection. So a member of NSSF or an employer who is contributing for their members can go to any of those banks and deposit money. When that money is deposited, it is all swept to the custody accounts. That is Standard Chartered Bank and Stanbic Bank. When the fund is going to conduct investments, especially in Kenya, Tanzania, and Rwanda, they then will conclude that investment using especially the KCB Bank because of its reach in those areas. After that investment is concluded, the certificate of title for that investment, if it is a government bond, if it is an equity, is what then, a copy of that is what is then deposited with the custodian. The same in Uganda. If you go to Bank of Uganda and you purchase a government bond, a copy of that bond or information regarding that bond is on the central depository system, which the custodians as well as NSSF can access for valuation purposes especially. When it comes to the certificates of title, the duplicate certificates of title that are issued by the Lands Registry are kept with the fund, at the fund, that if you walked in now and asked for the certificates of title, you will get the duplicate certificates of title. So I hope that's clear on the part of the custody. Regarding Workers' House, there is a certificate of title, just for correction. However, that duplicate certificate of title is not with the fund. The physical copy of it is not with the fund. Why? There were issues regarding the construction with Alcon, and that duplicate certificate of title with agreements in place was given to Alcon as security. However, when Alcon exited, they did not return that duplicate to NSSF. But NSSF has a copy of it. There are caveats, and the caveat of NSSF for purposes of risk management, there is an NSSF caveat that no one can transact with that property except through NSSF. I hope that is also clear. Regarding Temangalo.
Just on that through the chair, why did Alcon decline to return it? Perhaps they could be demanding, there could be issues, so you can clarify on that as well.
At the time when Alcon was still present, there were disputes regarding the payments, but which were resolved. But by the time the resolution was concluded, Alcon had already exited Uganda. So at that point, the fund was not able to access Alcon to get that duplicate, and that's why they reached out to the Lands Registry, to the Commissioner of Lands, to be able to issue what they call a special certificate of title, which is also good title for ownership of property.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm concerned about this Workers' House. Alcon, with all its lawyers, did not simply carry the land title, the duplicate for fun. There could be powers of attorney being transferred. And in the sense that we cannot use this land title. For instance, if we want to invest somewhere and we don't have enough cash, we could have deposited this land title temporarily to get the cash. Now we cannot use it. You are talking of a special title. Is it special what? Does not remove or make you that now you have taken over Alcon is no longer owning. According to you, now I'm asking for advice. According to you, do you think we are safe, or we should pursue it to the extent that Alcon should bring back our title?
Honorable Member, the Alcon holding the title does not mean they own the property. The property is still owned by NSSF. At that point, it was given as security, the same way you go to a bank and you give your security. The bank does not take over ownership of that property. And
Maybe a better way to respond to that. If Alcon used that title as security and did some work for us, it means it had, like the way you borrow from a bank, they first put a caveat on your title. Now, did Alcon lift that caveat on the title?
No.
So Alcon,
There are two caveats, an Alcon caveat and an NSSF caveat for protection of both parties.
Now, under what legal, do we have a lawyer here, corporation secretary? Okay. Now, Alcon gets our title, puts a caveat. What is the legal process of lifting a caveat on a title? Do you lift it by putting a second caveat? Okay, now explain to us.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and members. The legal process of lifting a caveat is by cancellation of that caveat. You write to the Ministry of Lands that this obligation has been discharged by the borrower. You are therefore requested to remove that caveat. It's called an encumbrance, so that the title is free. It's no longer encumbered, because you cannot transact with an encumbered title. So ideally, NSSF should have applied after fulfilling their obligations with Alcon, whatever obligations they may have used to encumber that title. Once they've paid or fulfilled the obligations, then that is a condition for the caveat to be lifted. So it's not enough to just add another caveat.
So
but probably, allow me, Chair,
please.
Probably we need to establish why it wasn't lifted, and in a bit to mitigate the risks, they went ahead to put another caveat and also went ahead to apply for a certificate, a special title. When under the law a special title is issued, it means the earlier title is thereby disqualified and cancelled, so you cannot use it. And the recent information here from NSSF, they are following up with the Ministry of Lands for issuance of that special title that will cancel the title that is held by Alcon that has since disappeared from Uganda. I submit, Chair. Not yet.
But from what you have just said, it means the caveat NSSF put is null and void before you go to the special title.
Chair,
Because for you to put another caveat, they would have to first cancel the first caveat of Alcon, which can only be done by Alcon. If NSSF paid the money Alcon was demanding, what was the procedure? Because if you are going to pay someone the balance, there should be an agreement that we are going to cancel the title. But let's get clarification, Honorable Gaffa, then Honorable Baka, anyone else?
Clarification from the legal officer. If there is a caveat on our land by Alcon, and we also put a caveat, it means neither NSSF nor Alcon can transact anything using that title. That is number one. Number two.
No, actually it can't.
It can't.
Because you cannot say neither us nor them, because that is not the procedure of removing a caveat.
That's why I'm seeking clarification now. Now, to remove the caveat by Alcon, it is not enough for NSSF to apply. It has to be with the consent, written consent of Alcon to the registry that yes, the obligation that NSSF had is now completed. You can. They cannot remove the caveat without the consent of Alcon. Number three, even if we applied for a special title means that we lost the original title. So even the special title will come with that encumbrance of Alcon. So we shall not have solved any problem. Clarify.
Honorable Baka, anyone else with clarification?
Sir has really explained it well. Because this issue of special title, dear colleagues, you have heard of cases in Kampala where 3 people are holding titles of the same land. And if we are not careful, we can be in the same game. A special title, as Honorable Governor said, can only apply when the other one is lost and there is nobody complaining, and now we are going to give you a special title. But in this case, NSSF also should not fool us that it's applying for a special title when these encumbrances are still there. Otherwise, we can end up counting air, and it is you, UBRA, who can help us as a supervisor. Yeah.
The procedures for applying for a special title. Transaction Procedures Series 16. An applicant must have in his or her possession an application for a special title, statutory declaration attached to application duly filed. The applicant presents the full set of original documents and a photocopy of the same to the Department of Land Registration for processing. A photocopy is stamped, received, and returned to the applicant. 3. The applicant checks with the Department of Land Registration after 5 working days to pick a letter to the Uganda Gazette for notification of the public on the impending issuance of a special certificate of title. 4. After 30 days of notification, the applicant presents a receipt of the Gazette to the Department of Land Registration and confirmation of the publication. 5. The Land Registration Department verifies the receipt and the Gazette notice and proceeds to issue a special title. 6. After 10 days, the applicant, upon presentation of the photocopy stamped received, collects the special title. But now you can answer his questions.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. As you've clearly enlisted, that's the procedure for lifting a caveat. However, during the inspections, it was disclosed that since they could not trace Alcon, that is why they took the first step to put a caveat. There another caveat.
Just clarification. What do you mean by they could not trace Alcon? The company closed, it's nowhere to be seen?
Can we let the Honorable, the Council first finish the whole presentation?
Thank you, Chair. From the information provided to the authority by the fund, they allege or allude to the fact that they could not trace, while in the process of lifting the caveat, Alcon, I don't know whether it wound up or something, but they say the company cannot be traced. So that is further information that the fund is in position to provide. However, in a bid to protect the property, because this is members' property, they went ahead to put a caveat. So there are 2 caveats currently on that title, one by Alcon and another by the fund, just like the Director of Supervision indicated. And the fund is in the process of applying for a special title, but it has not yet been issued. Probably those are some of the challenges, because it cannot be issued until you've substantiated that you can't find the original one, and you cannot lift the caveat until you've provided proof that you discharged the obligation that caused the Ministry of Lands to put such a caveat. So those are issues that can further be.
So you agree with me?
Wait, let her finish. Proceed.
I submit, Chair.
You are finished? Honorable Masaba.
No, actually, Chair, I put it right. We want to get the details of that Alcon, because I think that is something we need to dig deeper into. And if you're saying it does not exist, you mean they disappeared with our land title. So that is something I believe. I hope perhaps we'll interact with NSSF. You might not be having proper information on that.
Honorable Gaffa, then Honorable Baka.
So, Council, you agree with me that even when we succeed in getting a special title, it will still come with the encumbrance of Alcon, and then we shall not have solved the problem.
Honorable.
In clarification, is the Alcon a Ugandan with an American name or a company?
Honorable Chair, Alcon is a company limited that was established at that point in time as a limited liability company.
Is it possible, because if Alcon had no interest in lifting this caveat, it means there is something that was not fulfilled. Is it possible that their balance didn't reach Alcon? Because you said they sorted out their issues. They were demanding. So, what was the procedure? If they were demanding and you paid them, how come they didn't lift the caveat? What were the terms?
Regarding the Alcon issue, NSSF and Alcon actually went to court, and court issued judgment in favor of NSSF. And that's how Alcon exited, because there was a clear court judgment in favor of NSSF. So at that point, the details, at that point, I don't have the details with me now, but at that point from that court judgment, it meant that Alcon did not have any further claims as had been presented to court against NSSF. So following that judgment is when then NSSF decided to follow up for the certificate of title, because they had discharged their duty to Alcon.
They went to court regarding the balance?
I don't have the details with me, Chair.
Then how did you do due diligence to establish the fact that this title has never been presented? I thought you have reports.
Chair, at that particular inspection, the focus of the inspection was on investments and particularly presence of those investments. And one way of verifying investments in real estate was for us to look at the titles. We then got a copy of the judgment regarding Workers' House, because we raised the issue, how can you have property against which you don't have or you don't hold the certificate of title?
Can you give us a copy of this title, of this judgment, sorry?
I can get you a copy, Chair.
Okay, we'll proceed with their questions.
I think, Chair, it will make us, when we meet NSSF board again, to go deeper. Because according to what I have Googled now, Alcon is an American-Swiss medical company specializing in eye care. And we're talking about construction.
Yes, but we should not preempt whatever we are going to put in our report or whatever observation we have made. Let the witnesses proceed.
There are two more questions. The first one was from Mr. Bakavulindi. Are you doing double work because of the IGIG and these investigations? We think it is in order, like we are going to undertake our on-site inspection, irrespective of what is happening. We are obliged to do our work, so we don't see any problem with it. We are more interested in the findings, like I said earlier, because they can inform our supervisory framework how we can improve or do even do better. The final one was from Honorable Amos, which was, do you supervise the procurement of the fund? No, we don't supervise the procurement of the fund. But we know that procurement is a function that enhances the value of an asset. Now we are looking at the procurement, say, in real estate, and that's the journey we are going to take next, because our first focus on real estate inspection are three. Number one, does the title exist? That's why you've been debating the Workers' House and Temangalo issue. The second one, is it registered in the names of the fund? That's again the discussion. And of course, the third one, is there any evaluation on that particular asset that is consistent with the disclosures in the financial statements? The next course of inspection is going to look at the value addition, how the real estate are enhanced in terms of value, and that's the cost of the construction, etc. And then we'll go into the process. How is it done? But it's not us to approve the procurement process. You're aware of the procurement of the pension administration system? Yes, we are aware of it as a new system supporting the operations of the fund. But we are not aware of the details, how much it costed. But we are more interested, does it serve the purpose? Does it meet the requirements of the member? Does it provide the information that the member needs? And does it address, for example, we now demand with the new requirement to have voluntary memberships with the NSSF. For us, we are directing that there should be a separation between the mandatory window and the voluntary window. Can the system enable that kind of arrangement in order to provide clear disclosure and consistency as far as members' funds is concerned? As Summit Chairman.
Questions, Honorable Nantongo, Honorable Masaba? Yes, let's start with Honorable Nantongo.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is one, as the supervisors or regulators of NSSF, in your opinion, do you think that the investment decisions made by NSSF speak to the needs of the savers, or is NSSF purely in a frolic of its own as far as investments are concerned? Thank you.
Honorable Masaba.
Thank you very much, Chair. One, it concerns what we've been discussing. Do you have a risk management plan? I think you need to put it out clear if you do have one, because I believe we could be counting book balances of 17 trillion, yet actually we don't have that much. So do you have the risk management plan? And perhaps you could share the details with us. Two, it concerns still, I think about the risk management, you could tell us the level of risk on all the assets of NSSF. You can share that with us as well, because we've now identified just a couple of about 2 or 3, the ones you brought out. Perhaps we need to have a clear one on all. Then lastly, you could share with us still a copy of the directive from government concerning that useful railroad. You said it's a directive from government, so we need to know where exactly in government. Was it a presidential directive? Was it from Ministry of Finance? So you can share that with us as well. Thank you.
Gaffer, I'd forgotten. Just a minute. Honorable Gaffer. You are Zia Ali. Honorable Gaffer, then Honorable Kakem.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is only one. The law establishing UBRA provides for some percentage of money that is supposed to come to UBRA to enable your operations to supervise like NSSF. I'm aware that at one point NSSF complained and there was a directive to stop that money from NSSF coming to UBRA. Has that in any way affected or impacted on your ability to effectively supervise operations of NSSF? Thank you.
Honorable Kakembo.
Yes, I am Kakembo Michael, Salongo Mbwatekamwa. I represent the people of Entebbe Municipality, and I'm a member of this committee. Honorable Chair, the issues of ALCON, I am of the view that the ALCON lawyer, that is Kavega Tumusime and Company Advocate, and finally they have offices at Workers' House, can be summoned to this committee also to give us their view on that. To you, UBRA, as this regulatory body of NSSF, is within your mandate to do supervision on corporate governance of NSSF. What is your comment on the 6 billion the minister requested to be added in the budget of NSSF after its approval? And I'm interested also in your comment as the supervisory body. One member by the names of Honorable Yomoki Sam applying a request of 600 million from NSSF fund. Because in your report you were silent, you did not comment much on them, and I feel it is very irregular for a member to ask for such amount of money from the Savers Fund. You as the regulators, what is your comment on that? And lastly, as a regulator, have you ever interfaced with the Alcon lawyer, Mr. Kavega, Tumusima, the company advocate, who you seem to be not knowing where he is? I want to give you information that they have officers at Workers' House, and they are there even up to today. Before we even invite them, it is within your mandate to also find more information from the lawyers themselves. Probably they are hiding our title under Tumusime Enos's bed. Who knows? What steps have you taken to interface with Kavega Tumusime, the company advocate?
Chairman, and thank you, honorable members. The first question was from Honorable Nantongo. Do we think the investment decisions are in line with the needs of the members? To the best of our understanding, yes. What is a member interested in? A member is interested in preservation of his money value. A member is interested in safety of their money. A member is interested in high return. Today, where is the money invested? Money is invested in government securities, which are world over are the safest investment vehicles. Today, government securities are offering the highest return. It's unique to our market, Uganda. It's not common elsewhere, but it is unique that the Ugandan market is offering the highest returns. I think today it's around 16–17%. So any prudent investor would wish to put money there for the member. Again, there is another portfolio that invested in equities. There you are looking at the long-term growth of the member's portfolio. But the market we know we have today, NSSF is structured in a way that there are those members who have, who are young and old. The majority who have huge amounts of money, I think they're above 45 years. So they're about to retire. So their investments may not be looking into the long term, but we've not yet introduced products that speak to the age profile of member and their risk appetite at that point in time. But by and large, yes, they speak to their interest in terms of protection of funds, that is safety, returns to the member, and growth of the portfolio.
Clarification, Chair.
Clarification.
In terms of affordability, do the investments, especially real estate, the houses constructed by the NSSF, can the savers afford these houses in case they're interested in purchasing using their savings?
The majority of members would not in reality. But they have also, we know that there's also another investment vehicle that is being put in place to provide for housing for a particular category of members. We know that on average, I think members in NSSF, an average member holds around 5 million on average. So in principle, quite a majority cannot afford those houses. However, at the end of the day, would that investment be beneficial to the member in terms of growing that 5 million they have today? Is the money invested in a vehicle that will provide that return to the member? That's what speaks to the decision making on the investments, the investment side.
Running
The
out
others,
of time.
Honorable, thank you so much. Do you have a risk management plan? We have a risk management policy, and our focus is on risk-based supervision. And we're working on that framework steadily. We have different documents we've been able to develop, but we can share with you where we are coming from and the direction we're taking in terms of enhancing our supervisory capabilities to address risks in real time and to be able to mitigate whatever happens. The second one on copy of directives from government on the use of Lore Road. I request Daisy, we can submit that, we can get that. I know it was official, so the document is that it can be availed.
Including the inspection report.
Inspection report, Honorable Chairman, allow me to present it. This is a copy of the inspection report that we normally...
We want all your inspection reports, not just one.
Okay, that's fine.
You have done only 3? We want all your reports.
Okay.
But you can hand over that one. You want to take it back?
We can handle them at a go.
You give me that one for the committee.
That's fine.
I'll wait for the rest.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Chairman and Directors, there's a question from Honorable Gaffa. The law has a provision for a levy. Yes, the UBRA Act has a provision for levy. However, the details of the levy, that is regarding how much in terms of rate is prescribed in the regulations. And there was a directive of His Excellency the President to stop collecting this levy, which we've implemented. Has it affected our operations? No. Actually, levy was not being appropriated at source. We are only a collection agent. So all the money being received under the levy was always remitted to the Consolidated Fund Direct, and our budget was appropriated through Parliament, would come here to ask for money. So we're not appropriating at source. The question from Honorable Kakembo, Alcon, I think that is a recommendation to this committee for the Alcon members to come here. But from our side, we interface the Alcon lawyers. We even did in about them. Actually, I'm just learning about the Alcon lawyers in this committee. What we are more interested in terms of the details and the court judgment, which we've promised that we are going to share in this committee. Complaints handling, yes, we handle complaints. We've actually settled many for NSSF where there had been delayed payment of contributions. We've directed where there have been issues of non-remittances of funds. We've worked with the fund to enforce that. But of course, that is one area that needs more effort. The law, the good thing, gives NSSF powers to enforce that. We supplement that. But for the members' interests that have had complaints, yes, we've been able to help a number. Then the final one is on the request from the 6 billion. The 6 billion request we advised. We did not come to us directly, but when the Minister of Finance got an official communication, he sought our opinion, and we provided guidance on what should be done. We can table the letter on what we guided for your information.
Okay, but you are not very honest. There are so many issues in your inspection report, and you gave us only 3. There's fraud, I can see, and it would be unfair for us to discuss without copies for my honorable colleagues. There's fraud, there's delayed collection in income. There are issues with ownership of various pieces of land. I see Webaja also here, but you gave us only 3 in your presentation.
Chair, when we're making an inspection...
Pension towers, there was no certificate of title, and the transaction details provided for pension towers. I think, give us all those documents. We shall need you to come back here next week on Wednesday. We shall communicate. That
is fine, Chair. What we've given you is the report that we share with the board members, and it's out of that they submit documentation, and a number of them have been resolved.
There's even compromised good corporate governance. The chairman of the board stopped attending the meetings of the board committee.
Yes.
Risk that the trustees may have misinterpreted the requirement of the regulation. But you didn't tell us all these things.
Chair, we were not supposed to tell you. We told you that it's still outstanding. That has been resolved. We didn't find it relevant for this meeting. However, if you want to know all the details, for completeness, all that information is there. Those issues that have been concluded and those that are still
We're going to request all your inspection reports, off-site and on-site. We are going to request for What other document would you wish? Honorable members, any other document you wish them to bring? And also status of all these issues raised in here. So we shall need you to reappear on Wednesday at 11 a.m.
Okay. Can I be able to conclude others, if you don't mind, or you want them to
Please
conclude everyone?
proceed.
Thank you, Chairman. I say there was a question on the 6 billion that was being requested from NSSF, and I've said we guided on this, and there's a letter to that effect, which we shall also share. Issues regarding Honorable Liomochi have been brought to our attention. I think I reported on that. We're investigating the matter, and we shall be able to provide a clear report on that to the Honorable Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development. So for now, we can only confirm that we've received the letters of alleging to that.
The CEO is not specific on what misconduct or misbehavior they are investigating about Dr. Liomoki as a member of the board. I am in possession of some complaints here from members of the union regarding illegal nomination, illegal representation by Dr. Liomoki on the board of NSSF. Is that part of what you are investigating? Because I see these complaints are copied to you, although they are not addressed to you, but they are copied to you.
Quite a number of things, but before we start pronouncing on them, we take them as allegations. So we need to first do an investigation. As a prudent regulator, we need to first understand and then be able to confirm and subsequently provide guidance. The good thing, the law equips us with all the instruments to take action. Thank you.
Lastly,
you are investigating, but have you ever invited the complainants?
The principal complainant, no. Other complainants, yes. So it's a process.
And so much more. I don't know how you resolved, but we thank you and we wish you a good morning. Honorable members, maybe they can get us a copy as we wait for the other documents.
Sure. kakati mujje wano wansi